Welcome to the For Evansville podcast. I'm John, and I'm here with Adrian.
Hello.
And we're continuing our series of talking to people who are not just in Evansville, but are for Evansville, people who are contributing to our city, making it better in unique ways, depending on their passion and maybe their skills. And so we've heard a lot of great stories, and we're really excited for the guests that we're talking to today.
Yes, and this guest in particular, I felt like when we were setting that up and saying people who are contributing in unique ways, I thought about Pangea and second language, and we were like, we've got to get this guy in here. We have Randy Hobson with us today, and he is the guy who created those, and he's the founder. So we're excited to hear from him today and just hear his heart for Evansville and its food culture.
Yeah, and he also brought some pastries from second language,
Yes.
so he might be our favorite guest so far.
Probably.
I'm sure.
So welcome, Randy. We're so glad to have you here today.
Well, thank you.
Why don't we just start off with you introducing yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself. If you've lived in Evansville your whole life or if you've moved here recently, so let's get us started.
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you for this opportunity. It's an honor and very humbled to be here today. A little bit about myself. I grew up in Vincennes, Indiana, Southern Indiana boy. Went to school at U of E. Had an opportunity to do an internship at Berry Plastics in college and spent 25 years there at Berry. That was quite an eye-opener. I had an opportunity to live in Atlanta a couple times, LA, Vegas, travel the world. Very, very fortunate. Saw a lot of growth, a lot of acquisitions. And so I ended up sticking around there for 25 years. And shortly after we went public, I decided I wanted to do something that I was very, very passionate about, and that was to enter the restaurant business, which sounds crazy as heck. But, I never dreamed that I would have that opportunity. But Berry Plastics was a great, great employer, gave me so many opportunities to see the world, work with different people from different cultures.
Yeah.
Along the way, try some great food.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time on the front end working with customers and doing some R&D work with food companies, for example. And it just feathered and fostered my love for food, and in particular, ethnic foods, and seeing what was going on around Evansville, in the country and outside of the country. Really just, kept that spark going. And so eventually I retired from Berry after 25 years and got into the restaurant business. So Pangea was our first entry, and just recently second language, which is kind of a two-part operation. The patisserie side is now open here in downtown Evansville, fittingly in a historical building that was built in 1895. It was an independent bakery, ultimately became National Biscuit, which became part of Nabisco. Now has beautiful lofts developed by Mike Martin from Architectural Renovators. And second language, and our team is fortunate enough to secure a couple spaces there. There'll be a bakery, which is operating. And then in hopefully August, we'll be up on the ramen side, offering ramen Southeast Asian. So
Yeah.
Great.
that's the little capsule.
Yeah. Alex and I, my wife, we're really excited for the ramen place to open.
Yes, so we.
That's something that we enjoy when we go to other cities. And there are a couple places where you can get ramen here, but it'd be good to have another ramen place here in Evansville. So
Yeah.
we're
We
excited about that.
agree.
Yeah. So I'm curious, you mentioned that food was something that you've been passionate about for a long time. Were you passionate about it as just someone who enjoyed eating good food, or do you have like cooking, culinary experience, or was that kind of something that you had to learn later? Or do you leave that to others to do the cooking?
If you ask me, I'm a wonderful chef.
Okay.
But, reality is I'm not a chef. We try to respect that word, using the word chef. It's thrown around a lot.
Sure.
No, I am an individual that loves to cook, but I know my limits and boundaries. But there's also things that, I started cooking when I was, third or fourth grade. I'd go home for lunch, which sounds crazy.
Yeah.
It's an open campus. I live 3 blocks from my grade school. I go home and fry a cheeseburger. That was the kind of the way it evolved. So I'm a good eater, but I enjoy cooking.
Sure.
But I certainly know my limits, and especially getting outside of the American food culture, that's pretty digestible and not easy, but executable.
Yeah.
I've learned so much about, the Asian culture and their food and their preparation and ingredients. And it's so enlightening to me. But I also quickly recognize that there's a limit out there. So we've been very fortunate to have some really talented people on our team to bring that culture into Evansville. And, I definitely rely on my team to deliver that. But I will give a plug. Our Pistachio Pizza was my recipe.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's what I had last night whenever I had dinner at Pangea.
Favorite, I feel
It's really good.
A lot of people.
So I'm going to have to take credit for that. I was born in my backyard. When I retired from Barry, I got a wood-fired oven. That was my gift. And I kept messing around because I'd eaten this pistachio pie, which is very common in Naples, Italy.
Okay.
But they'll do it with whole nuts and sausage. They call it salsa lisa, I believe it is. And I just kept eating it, and I'm thinking, man, this is good. But how do you just turn it a little bit? And that's where I was like, okay, well, instead of having the whole nuts on the pie, let's make that the sauce. And, And eventually we added the sausage and the fresh mozzarella and the basil. But the crowning moment was when we were like, I'd seen this Mike's Hot Honey, which is everywhere now. But back then, it was a little guy in Brooklyn, Pauly G's, the guy in the back at Pauly G's developed Mike's Hot Honey.
Yeah.
I found this honey and put it on the pie, and I'm like, bingo, that's the winner. So anyhow, that's my claim for fame as far as restaurant recipes go.
That's awesome. So you brought the pistachio pizza, but I would love to hear your thought process on just all the different types. It seems like you have tons of different types of cuisine that you've brought here. So why those particular dishes, and then why Evansville?
Okay. It's all about experiences, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
I ate my first Neapolitan pizza in Phoenix, Arizona, probably 15, 18 years ago. And I remember waiting patiently for an hour and a half to get a pizza because the gentleman who made that pie made every single pie himself by hand.
Wow.
And I ate it, and I'm like, this is beyond, it's just different. Yeah. And then I started researching the product and learning about the heritage of how pizza began, and Neapolitan pizza is the heritage. It was just like, this is just, so I always knew I wanted to bring that style of pizza to Evansville. The Thai thing came from my passion for Asian cooking, and again, like when we developed Pangea, the brand, but Pangea is about coming together. It's it's the supercontinent. It's bringing the world to Evansville around food. That's our idea. So all the different cuisines that we experiment with and try to deliver is about sharing that culture, and that's really where the impetus came. We were fortunate enough to hire Wampin McDonald, who was with us for 5 years. Wampin is now back in Thailand, her homeland, who brought a wonderful amount of knowledge from growing up in Bangkok, Thailand. She literally trained at the Royal Academy that is in the palace.
Wow.
That's great.
Somebody like that really brought a lot of experience from outside of America. Our Pizzaiola, who was with us about 6 months to help us get started, was from Naples, Italy. He was born and raised in Naples, Italy. Wow. He was a certified Pizzaiola. He trained our guy, Brown Bear, Eric Luna, who runs our pizza programs today. Eric was a 19-year-old kid that worked at Troney's making sandwiches. Yeah. And he became this quiet little mouse that now today is he's just a rock star. Man. Yeah. I'm so proud of him, But
that's awesome.
But the big picture is those are the kind of people that are going to do cool things with food in this city, the Eric Lunas of the world. I can't not mention Sarah Bruggeman, who is our pastry chef. She's a homegrown talent. She's a West Side girl who had gone to culinary school for pastries. She didn't know anything about gelato when we opened Pangea.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I've been making it in my garage because I bought equipment, brought it in from Italy. I've been testing. I was the most popular guy in the neighborhood. All the little kids would come over, Mr. Hobson, what are you making today? I'm like, well, we got... So, Sarah came in and trained in on the gelato, and now she basically has been our quarterback for the patisserie downtown. It's those young people that have passion for food, have passion for challenges, because it's easy to plug and play. It's easy to sort of make the product the way it's supposed to be. It's not easy to do it authentically, and that's what we try to do time and time again. And, sometimes people, they don't like it, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. And me being me, I have a hard time with that sometimes. Social media can be kind of brutal.
Right.
But in the end, I'm just passionate about what we do, doing it authentically, and making a difference in this community. And I guess the story I would tell is, learning how to run a fry line at a fast food restaurant is one thing, but learning how to make fresh mozzarella cheese or pasta or run a wood-fired oven or make gelato, those are skills that are going to create bigger and better products in this city.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I love, I've never thought about that before, but I love how you're talking about really developing people here in Evansville and finding people who are passionate and hungry to learn. And, they might not have the skills that they need to do a particular type of cuisine, but equipping them, bringing in people who can teach them and developing that here in Evansville. And, it would be really easy for someone in your position who was passionate about cuisine, had traveled the world and been exposed to a lot of great places around the world to say, I really want to open a restaurant here in this place that I visited or that place that I visited, and go to somewhere where maybe that talent already exists in that community. And that maybe would have been easier in some ways. So could you talk about your decision to bring that here to Evansville, and even, to say, let's bring in some talented people from elsewhere to Evansville to train local people to develop those skills? And what was kind of your thought process there? What was kind of in your heart to bring that here to Evansville?
I'm glad you asked. I mean, Evansville has been the best thing that ever happened to my family. My life with Barry, I lived around in many places, but when my son was 5, was transferred back to Evansville with Barry, and that's, we started raising our family here.
Right.
And wonderful education, great, everything you need. My daughter had wonderful experiences with the Easter Seals Rehab Center, things like that you take for granted until you're faced with some issues, or opportunities. But Evansville is a place that is home for me. It's been good for me. It's been good to my family. Berry Plastics was very good to me.
Yeah.
I started, that company was $28 million. And when I retired, it was $5 billion. It was an incredible ride.
Yeah.
So giving back is paramount for me. So giving back to this community, and people do that in certain ways, time, treasure, talent. I'm not sure what mine is, but my give back is to create a better food culture in this city, to attract and keep young, talented people in this city. My life at Barry, we made 38 acquisitions in 25 years I was there, and it's kind of a left-handed joke, but we'd buy a company in Chicago and we want you to move to Evansville, and people would come visit and they would do their tour and they would come back and they have this and this, and pretty soon they would tell me about the restaurants. And back then, and I'm talking 15 years ago, my joke was, well, we have the highest grossing Olive Garden in North America right here in Evansville.
Chains ruled.
Yeah, it was a little bit tongue in cheek, but it was that was a miss, for the community and all the cool things that were happening here, all the excitement at Berry Plastics, for example. that was a miss. So when I retired, my give back was to try and help be part of that evolving culture, which is happening. We see it everywhere. And, so many young, talented people that I ran across at Berry. I hate to keep bringing up Berry, but, we would have these wonderful interns come in and work for us from Rose-Hulman, from Rochester Institute of Technology. And, what are you going to do when you graduate? Well, I want to move to Chicago and work for X.
Yeah.
Hey, why don't you stay here and be part of Evansville?
Right.
Be part of something that's happening, And the last part, Evansville is a good sized city, but it's small enough that what you do matters around here. And I really like that. I see people getting traction, downtown development, whatever it is, if people put their heart and soul into it, good things happen. And that, you can't always say that.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that was a long answer, but Evansville's done a lot for me and my family, and this is certainly where I want to be.
Yeah, I love that. And I hope that, I would imagine that some of the people who you're developing and who are working at these different restaurants and being able to pursue their passion through that are probably going to one day look back and say, like, I really had a great opportunity here in Evansville to pursue my passion. And then they'll go on to carry that forward as well, hopefully, and contribute to the city in some cool ways like that.
In 10, 15 years, that's the best compliment I could ever get.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So I want to know about maybe the international side of things, bringing these different cultures together through your food. Have you seen or have any cool stories about kind of bringing the nations here and gathering them together? Have you gotten to meet people that live here that are appreciative or enjoy the food? Can you talk about that?
Absolutely. I think first thing, I'll tell a couple quick stories about young kids, and I pay attention to all of our customers, but when the kids are in there, it's just something different about them.
Yeah.
Of course, I just got my first grandson about 2 months ago, so
Congratulations.
my antenna's up. So not to brag, but I just remember this little boy who was in one day, and he had this bowl of cow soy, which is a pretty aggressive dish, noodles, curry broth, soft boiled egg, and he was just crushing it. He was like, this is so good. Like, blah, blah, blah. But that's the point. The world is shrinking. It's getting smaller every day. Communication, technology, the integration, and the ethnicity of these cities. Evansville is one of them. It's wonderful. It's wonderful to see these cultures coming together, and the world is shrinking. And, those kind of things are what get me excited. But that young kid probably watched the Food Network. Those things that didn't exist when I was a kid. The second part of that is, the culture. A lot of people that have traveled the world, and they say, I've been to Naples, Italy. Because most people say, I went to Italy and I ate pizza.
Yeah.
A lot of different kinds of pizza there.
Right.
And believe me, I love them all. I mean, I love Roman style pizza. That's probably my favorite right now. But Neapolitan pizza is specific to Naples, and it's such a cool story. I mean, it was peasant food. It was fried dough that was sold on the street that evolved to where it's at today,
Yeah.
But when people come in, and it's usually older people that are retired, they've traveled, they've been to Bangkok, or they've been to northern Thailand and eaten cow soy, and they come in and say, wow, this is what I've been craving since my last trip.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's the itch that if we can scratch that, that's awesome. So, and the ethnicity of the food, the Thai and Italian was kind of our power alley. But when you get into it, there's so many things that you can bring forward. And, I'll give a great example. We did a collaboration with La Caprana the other day, who does wonderful Hispanic food. We wanted to do a breakfast tamale, but that's not our strength. So we bought their tamales, created a little bit of spin on it.
Wow.
Called it a breakfast tamale and offered it second language. Those kind of collaborations are extremely powerful. And the community needs to see that. They need to see that the restaurants aren't all pushing and shoving, you know.
Yeah,
And I can be I can be a shover sometimes because I'm just real passionate about it. But those things integrate communities. You know, the festivals that we have. I would love to see us have an Asian festival. You know, Hola has some wonderful things where you experience some of the Latino culture, Hispanic culture. You know, what's next? How do we go to that next level? So anyhow, that's kind of. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, so I have to ask, what is your favorite food item that you offer either at Pangea or at Second Language?
Okay. That's a tough one. Can I give you more than one?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, my favorite pizza is the marinara pizza, which is as it's on the menu is a cheeseless pizza.
Okay.
It's basically marinara sauce, a little bit of olive oil, oregano, garlic. One thing I like about it, that was the original pizza, that and a margarita. And there's places in Naples, Italy today that's all they serve are those two. Now, to take it to the next level, I like that with some mushrooms, black olives, and fresh stracciatella. Stracciatella is the cream that goes inside of the burrata. So it just creates this creamy experience. So that's my favorite pizza right now.
Okay.
Ask me in 3 months, it'd probably be something different because I'm
Sure.
always trying different things. And then the cow soy is probably my favorite Thai dish. At Second Language, oh gosh, I have to say the French style donuts. You know, talk about experiences. Probably 10 years ago, I went to Dominic Ansel's Patisserie in New York City in Soho, and I was kind of like, oh, we'll see. You know, I was never like this real into like beautiful pastry stuff kind of guy. I'm more like meat and potatoes sometimes. But, you know, it was a Monday down in Soho, raining like crazy. I thought, well, I'll go there at 10:30 and surely it won't be that busy, you know. So I get there, I wait an hour and a half in the rain,
Oh my goodness.
get there, and he does one donut flavor per month, and he's never repeated. In 10
Wow.
years, he's never repeated a
Whoa.
flavor. It's all scratch. So paid $7 for that donut, ate it, and I'm like, I'm the happiest guy in the world. This is like an incredible experience. you know?
Wow.
So that was, again, it was just like the pizza. Got to do this someday in Evansville. Let other people experience this. And it's a commitment. It's huge investment in equipment. All the equipment's from Europe. 3 days to make the donut.
Yeah.
So I have to say that's probably my favorite. The problem is I don't know which flavor I'd pick.
Okay.
Probably the creme brulee right now.
That
Okay.
was my favorite for sure.
Is that right?
Yes.
All
That was
Yeah.
on my top list.
Something about it, it wasn't as sweet because I don't like a real sweet donut, but it had that interesting flavor with the powdered sugar, or
Yeah.
excuse me, the powdered chocolate on it.
Yeah.
That was probably my fave there.
That's
So
great.
long answer.
No, those are good options for us and our listeners to try if we haven't had those already. Which the two foods that you mentioned, I haven't tried those yet. So
Cool. All right.
I'll give those both a shot. But another thing that I'm curious about is there a type of food that you've had somewhere else that currently is not available in Evansville? Like there's no restaurant that serves it here, that you either maybe dream about bringing to Evansville someday, or you wish somebody else would, or something like that, like that you just can't get your hands on in Evansville, but would love to see here?
A year ago, I would have said some of the Latino things, the pupusas and the next generations of tacos, is what I look at it. I call them all handhelds. I mean, it's whatever it is. If it's a roti, if it's a naan bread, or it's a taco, it's a handheld. But
Sure.
there's so many things around the world that they use different vessels to deliver similar goods.
Yeah.
And it's funny to watch Taco Bell. They're delivering a taco now, or a chalupa, or whatever it is, in a chicken breast or chicken.
Right.
It's like, okay,
Right.
but
We really innovated what the name
Yes.
taco can encompass.
but I that was high on my list. But I see, there's some new restaurants that just came to town. There's one coming in doing some Peruvian food. it's awesome to see. And, you know, I try to get out and support those people. But the one that I really want to do, and we've been testing internally for 2.5 years now, is Roman style pizza.
Yeah.
Now the downside of that is Roman style really didn't exist in the United States till probably 3 or 4 years ago. You go to Rome, there's a guy named Gabriele Banci who is like the man, really close to the Vatican, that does these crazy pizzas with this crust that it's similar to a cracker crust in that it's very crispy on the bottom, but it's a very long fermentation, 36-hour fermentation of that dough.
Wow.
So instead of getting that really thin that everybody likes around here, you get this base that is much more mature. The dough is mature. It's a lot less yeast going in. It rises over time, and it just creates this drama that's like amazing. Like the crust is so good, you're just like, okay.
Yeah.
But they came to the U.S. Banci came to the U.S., went to Chicago, Miami, New Orleans. It hasn't done great. Now, you know, is it a COVID issue? I don't know. And then the fundamentals of the way it's served, you go in and there's sheet pans of different pizzas. I mean, it's the most beautiful presentation you'll ever see. You walk in and you're just looking at all these things. But they cut it with scissors, they weigh it, and that's the way they charge you. I just don't think Evansville's ready for that. So we may do a slice version of that.
Oh, no, Evansville loves their pizza.
Oh, gosh, yes.
True,
but I don't think we're going to sell it by weight. But you know, so taking that concept and refining it, you know, if we do another pizza concept, it'll be something like that.
Yeah. That's cool.
So you've talked a little bit about what you hope to see, but could you maybe expound on that? What are your dreams for Evansville, or what would an ideal food culture in Evansville look like?
Wow. I think it's just, I guess, you know, this is a Randy Hobson answer, self-serving, to be able to go out and regardless of what you're in the mood for, if I want Korean barbecue, or if I want pupusas, or I want whatever, Roman style pizza, there is a solution. There's somebody out there doing that. And what that means is that, you know, some of the people outside of the United States that have moved to Evansville, you know, they're prospering, they're growing, they're doing things, and they've gotten to a point where, hey, maybe they started as a pop-up, maybe they started as a food truck, they've got a brick and mortar. That's, you know, it's kind of a gray answer, but I think we're getting there. It's just going to take time and support. You know, I guess I would ask the community to get out and support these people. You know, it just it pains me to drive down Green River Road sometimes, and like, you know, you drive by 6 Independents and they're half full, and then, you know, people are outside with their beepers waiting at whatever ticket, you know, and that's okay. But, you know, it takes a lot of support, and nothing against the chains. Believe me. I mean, they have high operating budgets. They need that revenue. I understand the drill, believe me. But, you know, I always talk about Asheville, North Carolina. You know, it's one of the places I go to be inspired a lot of times. And, you know, it's a population of 98,000 people, and this is an old number, but they had 19 breweries. They have micro distilleries. They have incredible vegan restaurants, you know, stuff that is very progressive in a city that is half the size of Evansville. Yeah. You know, so I guess, not sure I answered the question, but those are things that I think would be the nirvana for food.
Yeah. Well, it's great. I'm glad you added the challenge to our listeners to go out and support those local restaurants.
It's not a hard challenge to accept. Trust me. So yeah. Well, thanks so much for taking the time to kind of share your story and your passion with us. I love hearing a little bit of the story behind these restaurants that I know I've come to really enjoy, and am really glad are here in our city. And I shared that enthusiasm with you of wanting to see more of that in our community, to be able to try new foods that maybe I haven't experienced before, to be exposed to really a really important piece of other cultures that that you wouldn't otherwise get to experience aside from traveling, which not everybody can do. And I think it makes our city better because of those experiences, but also because a better set of experiences in our city means attracting more people to our city who want to bring their talents and their passions, and just creating a space where we can all eat together, enjoy time together, and flourish together. So,
well, thank you, Jonathan. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah,
Adrian, thank you.
Thanks.
Well, that was really cool. I love Pangea and Second Language. They're two of my favorite restaurants in Evansville. So hearing the story behind them has made me love them even more.
Yeah, and even what he was saying about that little boy enjoying the food.
Yeah.
We've kind of seen that too with my son as well. He asks, every Saturday morning, can we go to Second Language?
Yeah.
The fact that he knows that and he wants to look at all the pastries and stuff. I just love that he's able to get that food culture here in Evansville.
Right.
Because I did not have those experiences growing up here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really cool. And I loved the way that he, without us really even having to ask him a lot of these kind of questions to connect the dots, he really kind of highlighted how having good restaurants in Evansville helps make the city better, not just because there are good places to eat in Evansville, but sort of the ripple effect of that, that if there are good places to eat in Evansville, then people want to live in this community and enjoy it. And so that has a good impact on our economy, on our ability to attract talented people who can work at other local businesses or start local businesses. Having a restaurant like Pangea or Second Language helps make it possible for other local restaurants to be opened and to be supported, because it sort of creates a demand for that kind of stuff. So
right. And so back in June, when we talked about the economic capacity, and we had some of our guests, they talked about the importance of downtown and how important it is to get people here and retain them, because when people come in from out of town to kind of try to envision themselves here, it's really important to have places that people can show them that they're proud of. And I just remember having these cuisines. I'd have to go in my own travels to New York, and I'd say, okay, we have to go to these specific restaurants because I cannot get that in Evansville. And I feel like that's totally shifted now. It's like when people come here, I want people to actually come here so I can take them to these places. And I feel like there's a lot of city pride that's developed in me just because of our food culture, and specifically Pangea and Second Language.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a big deal. And I think, hearing Randy's story is inspirational too for anybody who maybe has traveled to other cities and seen things that they really liked in those cities, and maybe felt like, I wish that could be a part of Evansville, because he wasn't a chef or a restaurant owner originally. He was working for Barry here locally and just had this passion. And so that's not to say everybody needs to start new restaurants or needs to start whatever it is that they find in another city. But, he talked about going to other communities to find inspiration. And I think there's a lot of value in that. Not that Evansville needs to try to be like another community, but seeing what other communities are doing, what other cities are doing, that's exciting and cool, and thinking about what could the Evansville version of that be, and how could I help bring that here, I think is really exciting.
Yes. And another thing that I just unintentionally came up that I think is such a beautiful thing about what Randy is doing is providing really excellent training for kids here, maybe the younger generations, to get really passionate about. And I was just thinking, who has the opportunity to work directly under somebody from Thailand who worked in the royal palace
Yeah.
or came straight from Naples and is a Pizzaiola or whatever that name was.
Right.
But it would take a lot of money and very prestigious schools to work underneath and get training from someone like that. But for him to bring that person in and offer that to people in our community, that's an amazing thing.
Yeah.
And I love his attitude of just, hey, there are kids in our community who can be really passionate and really good, and I'm going to help them thrive.
Yeah, that's great. It's more than just a restaurant. Like it's more than, and what I mean by that is it's more than just about like, let's create a product that people will pay for so that we can make money. It's,
right.
I mean, that is part of it. It's a way of earning a living and people who work there to be able to earn a living, but it's also providing this value to the community that's really significant and in a lot of different ways. And so, yeah, it's cool to hear that story. And if you have a favorite food item at Pangea or Second Language, or maybe another local restaurant that you're really excited about that you feel like is enhancing our city and really kind of contributing to the flourishing of our community, either through great food or great opportunities, or even just a great place for people to connect and things, we'd love to hear about it. Send us an email, info@forevansville.org, or connect with us on Facebook and Instagram @forevansville.
Thanks for listening.